Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is internal revolution starting soon, and a second topic, how to spot a communist. I had someone recently ask me, isn't this terribly negative? I mean, how do you keep from getting depressed? Well, frankly, I'm excited to bring it to you. I love doing this, but every once in a while, I feel like I need to kind of get in prayer, just sit and stare at the walls, or take a vacation or something. Yeah, sometimes it's pretty tough. I've got some information for you today that, frankly, is a little depressing. I hate to see my nation fall apart, just like the prophecies, especially Dimitri Duduman's prophecy, coming to pass today, and I see it, and I think you see it too. Okay, Russia mocks Donald Trump's America. Civil war is coming. Who said that? A Russian lawmaker said civil war is brewing in America, and you know what? He's right. He says Moscow should take advantage of the Republican-Democrat divisions and cause a shutdown. Were the communists behind the recent shutdown? Probably. So he goes on to say on TV, differences between the two U.S. political parties are entering a phase of being impossible to resolve. Let me say it again. Impossible to resolve. Sadly, he's right. Moscow should be more politically aggressive. Moscow, communists, want to see the last Christian nation destroyed. So, if you're needing gold or silver, call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD, especially if you have an IRA or 401k. Wants civil war. Now, here's what I've got today. I did several pictures just right off of my TV, and I want you to look at all of this. In my opinion, proves that America is very close to a civil war or an internal revolution. Chicago police did not help ICE. You know the story by now. Secession. Mother Jones, it's time for soft secession. So they're talking about splitting our nation, some of the states peeling away. Sad to say, that is one of the prophecies. Deep in the heart of Texas, independence fervor in Austin, more rallies planned. And you recall Chris Reed, if you drop down to number 5, American Pieces, subtitled More States Secede from the Nation in Rebellion to the Federal Government. I used to think that that would be the Republicans pulling away from the Democratic leadership. But now I see that Christians are a whole lot more patient than the sinners. So the sinners are angry at Trump trying to save this nation. Started by the communists. Now I've got two pictures on this, kind of similar, but they're both saying started by the communists. Democrat calling for the death of a Republican. This guy on the right actually put that in I believe it was a text or a tweet, something like that. Anyway, communist training for revolution. Okay, so, when you get people out trying or actually practicing for the overthrow of a government, that's pretty serious. Again, I got a second picture on that. So in this, the guest says, and this is the part I want you to pay attention to, and the left continues to fuel this insanity hysteria that the federal government is somehow an illegitimate force. And it's okay to oppose ICE. So what they do is they lay the gasoline and the matches out, and they get people spun up, and they hope that someone does what they want them to do, which is burn the place down because they can't get their way, and we're not putting up with it. I'm going to explain that, where that thought comes from. This can be a really awesome program, I have to say. And if you try that here, you'll end up in handcuffs. Then the host again says, they pour the gasoline, the match get lit, and then they say, hands off, we had nothing to do with this. Here's another video, and I want you to pay attention to that part of it. Notice that part.
Recent tweet from Newsom's press office, and this is what is said in the tweet. Kristi Noem is going to have a bad day today. You're welcome, America. Now, I know this was referred over to the Secret Service. I don't know the intentions there, but I do know the climate right now.
Right. No, that's exactly what I was shocked when I saw that. That's the exact same rhetoric we saw leading up to the assassination of Charlie Kirk just a little over a week ago. And for the governor to do that and send that out was completely reckless. And we don't know the intent, and we don't know how that's going to be received by left-wing extremists. So I made the referral to the Secret Service out here in California. They're going to do a full threat assessment, and they're going to see if there's any danger to the secretary. They're charged with keeping her protected.
Bill, I don't want to talk about this from a political aspect, but as someone that sees a lot of the intelligence, sees a lot of the cases, can you just talk about the threat level right now against elected officials, against ICE officers, against people that are conservatives right now?
It's higher than ever. I was in the legislature before. It was just commonplace to receive threats. It's just become part of what's expected. But our agents, our men and women who did not sign up to run for office, they signed up to protect our communities, don't deserve this. Assaults against them are up over 1,000%. We filed almost 100 cases for either assault or interference. And the left continues to fuel this insanity, hysteria, that the federal government is somehow an illegitimate force and it's okay to oppose ICE. So what they do is they lay the gasoline and the matches out, and they get people spun up, and they hope that someone does what they want them to do, which is burn the place down because they can't get their way. And we're not putting up with it. And if you try that here, you'll end up in handcuffs.
Yeah, they pour the gasoline, the match gets lit, and then they say, hands off. We had nothing to do with this.
Here's another video, same evening. Watch what it says.
Time with us, sabotaging America. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, if the not-so-esteemed Saul Alinsky were alive today, he'd be smiling. His book, Rules for Radicals, laid out a step-by-step blueprint for destabilizing America. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, polarize it. Demonize your opponent, protect the mob, overwhelm the system until it breaks. And this week, we saw it on full display in Chicago, where the mayor there has clearly joined the radicals' cause.
The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War. I want that to sit in right now, because the President of the United States of America has declared war on the people of Chicago and people across America.
Now let's go to one of the most famous books out there for communists, first published in 1971, called Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. It's called A Counsel to Help Young Radicals on How to Destroy a Christian Nation. Basically, that's what it is. Now, I looked up, these are the abbreviated rules. I want you to look at them. We'll read through them because I'm about to play something from the Chicago mayor, and I want you to ask yourself, how many of these rules is he following? How many of these things, these points, is he using to try to destroy our Christian nation? 1, power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Never go outside of your expertise of your people. Whenever possible, go outside of the expertise of the enemy. Don't we see them doing that? Make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. In other words, what it's saying, make Christians live up to their Christian Bible, and of course no one can. So that makes us look bad, and they use that against us. You'll see. Ridicule is a man's most potent weapon. What do you mean ridicule? Well, they call us racist. They call us black haters and communists and Hitlers. And okay, they are the ones that throw the names, and that is where they get to. I'll read it again. Ridicule is a man's most potent weapon. See, the Christians, we don't call people names, but that's exactly what the communists do. That's rule number 5. Rule number 6, a good tactic is one your people enjoy. Oh, you mean people enjoy burning buildings and causing problems? Yes, they do. They love it. I mean, you can see it. They love it. They're willing to die for it. A good tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Keep the pressure on. Never give up. Never let up. Well, don't we see that? I mean, because the Christians, we tend to sit down. We tend not to fight. But the goats, I mean, that's why they call them goats, because they never give up. They're always fighting. You turn your back on a goat, literally. If you turn your back on a goat, they will butt you in the rear end. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. In other words, always attack, never give up, and watch this next one. If you push a negative hard enough, it will push through and become a positive. I think Hitler said it another way, that if you tell a lie often enough, before long they start to believe it. The price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. So basically, let's destroy the Christians, let's destroy the Christian Bible, let's destroy everything Christian until finally we get a little bit of a victory in there. Last one, number 12, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Now, I'm going to read I'll get part of it. Part of a recent speech that Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, just said yesterday. And I want you to look and see how many of these rules he is following. Okay, so here we go. Now, I'm going to move fast, okay? On Wednesday, federal immigration agents raided an apartment building in the South Shore community in the middle of the night. Well, that's the best time to try to catch the bad guys, right? This building was managed by a slumlord that people have been all clear about. The city actually sued the owner in February over 15 building code violations. That means the city's a good guy, right? The residents were dealing with deplorable conditions already. Well, they were living among a bunch of drug dealers, if you got the other side of the story. The residents were dealing with the deplorable conditions already. That was before ICE trampled. In other words, they're attacking already. They're saying bad things about the good guys. But when they came in the middle of the night, they terrorized the families who were living there. There were children who were without clothing, of course, okay, in the middle of the night. And they were zip-tied and taken outside. Well, come on. I don't believe that. But see, that's part of the rules of the radicals, to say bad things about your enemy, okay? Even if they are lies. At 3 o'clock in the morning, a senior resident, an American citizen with no warrants, was taken outside and handcuffed for 3 hours. Well, if you live among bad people, you can expect bad things to happen. Immigration agents coming from Black Hawk helicopters set up snipers on nearby buildings. Well, I wonder why. Maybe it's because they just got shot at from a sniper on top of a building in Dallas, okay? In other words, these actions are justified, at least up to this point. This is America. Yeah, well, why don't you act like it? Because America was a Christian nation. One resident described the situation plainly, and I quote, "They had immigrants in one van and black people in another van." Well, some of the immigrants are black, some of them are white, red and yellow, black and white, all colors, right? This raid wasn't about public safety. It was about immigration. Well, that is what they've been saying, okay? But if you get rid of the bad guys, then you do help the public. But see, they're turning it to make the good guys look bad. This was about a show of authoritarianism. I don't think I said that right. A forceful display of tyranny. Well, there you go, attacking with words. They sent a clear message to all Chicagoans. They said, "We do not respect your rights. We can do anything we want, and we will film it and put it on social media." See how he's attacking? He's following the rules for radicals. The next day, ICE agents chased people outside of a homeless shelter on the south side and then caused a car accident on the west side. Immigration agents put a young black man, okay, wait a minute. I said this to Leslie last night, and our best friends is a salt and pepper couple, okay, so I'm not president's guy. I don't believe you should be treating a person with a different color skin differently or a different language background. Or it's not about that. When they have Jesus in their heart, it doesn't make any difference the color of the skin, the accent they hold, or where they were born. Immigration agents put a young black man in the chokehold on the side of the street in the East Garfield Park. Witnesses, one of whom you will hear from this morning, bravely filmed the interaction, eventually leading to his person's release. On Friday, agents dispersed tear gas in the middle of the busy street. Chicagoans were hit with chemical agents while walking their children home from school. You know, if you live among bad people, bad things happen. One of the reasons I like living in Texas is because it is mostly Christians here. At least it's a high percentage of Christians. I wouldn't want to live. Sorry, I wouldn't want to live in California. I wouldn't want to live in a blue state, especially a blue city. I don't want to live around those kind of people. But if I lived around those kind of people and they deserve to be arrested, then I also deserve to possibly be numbered along with them. Does that make sense? Agents went into the Humboldt Park Center and detained a sitting elected official. Once again, bad people with bad people have bad things happen to them. Because it simply requested to see a warrant. On Saturday, they escalated even further by shooting a U.S. citizen. They claimed it was defensive fire, but frankly, we cannot trust anything that comes out of the administration. It was only a few short weeks ago that they claimed officers were severely injured in the killing of Mr. This Gonzalez guy. A subsequent investigation found that the agent said on a body camera footage that it was, in fact, nothing major. So they're doing everything they can to try to make the good guys look bad. That's part of the rules. We have a rogue, reckless group of heavily armed individuals roaming throughout our city who are not accountable to the people of Chicago. Well, because the people of Chicago won't clean up the city, okay? Neither the police or the law enforcement or the attorneys, say it that way. Their actions put all Chicagoans at risk. Well, if Chicago would fix Chicago, you wouldn't need to have the ICE in there, okay? Matter of fact, if Biden had to let all of the evil people in, you wouldn't have to have the ICE coming out, rooting them out, okay? But again, see, they do bad things, and then when we try to fix it, they point at us, and they call us names. When the protesters confronted federal immigration agents on Saturday, they were met with pepper balls and more repression. Well, better pepper balls than lead bullets, right? CPD responded to attempt to de-escalate the situation. And ICE tear-gassed our police officers. I don't believe that. Now, we do know that tear gas blows in all directions, just like the wind. So you put a tear gas out here and they wind up throwing it back on the police. So sometimes bad things happen to good people when they're in bad places, okay? Chicago Police Department officers is now how we make our sisters safer. I'm calling for a full investigation into this incident and to all the brutality that we've seen over the past week. They're taking police resources that should be in our neighborhoods, serving Chicagoans, and diverting them to deal with the chaos that they are causing. Well, if you would fix your own problem, then you wouldn't have to have the feds in to fix your problem, okay? We need ICE out of our city, yeah, so that you can make the whole city communist and the whole thing fall apart. Kind of feels good to finally air what I really think about this stuff. And by the way, I apologize in advance. I do not mean to offend anybody, but, you know, I live in Texas, and I'm a radical Christian, okay? So these actions tell us the simple truth. If we allow this administration to take away due process for anyone, we will allow them to take away due process for everyone. They told us that this was about the worst of the worst. In reality, they're going after anyone who objects to families being ripped apart and community members being disappeared. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think he's lying. ICE lies. ICE lies. Well, yeah, okay. Many years ago, when I was 18 years old, I was a police officer for a brief period of time. I saw some police officers do some wrong things. They're not perfect. But I also have seen some good people in high places do some bad things too. So that's the reason Jesus came and died on the cross, because we all have imperfections. ICE lies and people die. We cannot allow this to continue. Now, that's a big phrase. We cannot allow this to continue. Well, Mr. Mayor, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to call up a bunch of all of the bad sort, and I'm going to get the bad sort angry and stir them up to kill you. Well, I didn't exactly say that, but we know that's where it's going. We must take action more drastic than what we have taken before. Internal revolution? Because what we're seeing is a more radical attempt to undermine our democracy. Okay, first of all, America is not a democracy. To the republic for which it stands, we are a republic. That's one of the things you see in all of the Democrats, all of the communists. They refer to us as a democracy. Why? because democracy is mob rule. It's whatever the most people want, that's what they get. That's not a republic. A republic is a group of people that have set down a set of laws and they expect everyone to obey those laws. A democracy is where the mob rules. That's what they want, but that's not what our nation was set up to be. I'm kind of enjoying this. Today, we're signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. That's a lie. The order established ice-free zones. I'm not an expert, but I don't think he's going to get by with that. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. Our school parking lots are not for ICE to unload their weapons. They are for Chicagoans who drop their kids off to learn. Our libraries are not for ICE to prepare for a raid. They are for Chicagoans to read and relax. Our parks are not for ICE to set up checkpoints. They are for Chicagoans to play and enjoy. Well, if you would do your job, and if you round up the bad guys, if you put the Bible back in the schools, you wouldn't have this problem. Private establishments can partner with us to make clear that private property is private property, and ICE cannot enter establishments without a valid warrant. Well, I question that. That's probably wrong. Private entities may voluntarily choose to display signage to designate the property as part of a citywide network of community spaces that stand together in affirming the safety, dignity, and belonging of all of our residents. In other words, ICE can't go there. Well, my guess is that the ICE will just ignore them. If there's a bad guy there, they're going to go and they're going to find him. So by extending this protection beyond city-owned land, the order builds a broad civic shield that limits the reach of harmful enforcement practices. Now, my point is, do you see an internal revolution? I do. Do you see some of the people fighting against the government? I do. Do you see that this is the early phases of what Dimitri was told starting to come to pass? I do. The fact is, we cannot allow them to rampage through our city with no checks or balances. Okay, the checks or balances were broken by you a long time ago. Okay, they're just coming to fix it. No one is above the law, including you, Mr. Mayor. If we break the law, we should be held accountable, including you, Mr. Mayor. If Congress will not check this administration, then Chicago will. Yeah, if Chicago gets out of hand, they'll bring in the military. Trump is not going to back up. I know that there are many Chicagoans who are disturbed by the images and videos that they're seeing on the news and social media. There are many who are scared and shocked by what they are seeing. Well, you're showing the wrong things, okay? There are many who are scared and shocked by what they're seeing. The truth is that we are at the tipping point. I agree. The administration is trying to divide us and pit people groups against one another. Administration is trying to clean it up. You're the guys that's trying to destroy it. They went to divide and conquer. Well, where did you get those words? From Saul Alinsky, The Rules for Radicals? Yes, that's where you got those words. And as I said in South Shore, this has been said very clearly. Black people in one van and immigrants in another. Okay, does it matter? They're probably just concerned with getting people into the car and getting them out of there. They're not saying, oh, no, that's the black van, that's the brown van. Okay, but again, this is part of them using the words to make good people look bad, okay? Black, brown, white, Asian, young, old, north side, west side, south side, we must all put aside our differences. Well, yes, Mr. Mayor, we should, because you're not. And defend one another. Okay, he's calling for civil war. He's calling for an internal revolution. Because if we allow this to continue unchecked, by the time we realize what's happening, it'll be too late. It was too late back in 1963 when they took prayer and Bible out of the schools. That's what we're experiencing today. This executive order is a step toward revolution, in my opinion, and it's calling for the basic rule of law. In the coming days and weeks, we may be punished, if not forced, to take even more dramatic action if this administration continues to escalate and provoke our people. Okay. Those words are making people angry. These words are starting an internal revolution. In closing, Last night I spoke with the governor, and he informed me that the Trump administration is deploying the Texas National Guard to our city. Hooah! We shall speak to our response today. We'll do that with the governor, as well as the Attorney General. For now, let me just say that we are unequivocally going to continue to reject the military occupation of our city. Internal revolution. As I can tell you, them Texas boys, they ain't going to put up with it. They're going to come in and they're going to set things right. Why I live in Texas. The Trump administration must end the war in Chicago. The Trump administration must end the war against Americans, must end its attempt to dismantle our democracy. It's not a democracy, it's a republic. Right as we are making historic progress in the reducing violence, the Trump administration is seeking to destabilize our city by getting the bad guys out. Okay, so stabilization is when the bad guys are everywhere and destroying everything. That's what they want. And provoke chaos. We said that you would use ICE as a pretext to send in the National Guard. Well, if you will clean it up, he won't have to send the National Guard in. And now what they're doing is just that. I've also said in the last couple of years that, here it is, the extreme right in this country refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. Oh, really? They've repeatedly called for a rematch. But in the coming weeks, will we use this opportunity to build greater resistance? He is calling for a civil war, an internal revolution. Chicagoans are clear. Militarizing our troops in our city as justification to further escalate the war in Chicago will not be tolerated. So we're not going to put up with what Trump and his administration is doing to try to clean up, get the bad guys out. We're going to get more bad guys. We're going to get the bad guys, some of the people fighting against the government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba. Okay, I just read that Russia is saying, hey, I'm seeing an internal revolution in America. I'm telling you, Dimitri's prophecy is real, and we're seeing it come to pass. The past teaches us that just because let me skip on. I got to read this. I got to get through it. So this is the rest of Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. Now, this is the rest of the rule. Leverage perception to amplify your influence, making opponents believe you're stronger than you might be. That's what the guy's doing. Never go outside the expertise of your people. Build confidence and momentum by focusing on issues and tactics your group understands and can execute effectively. He's stirring up trouble. Whenever possible, go outside the expertise of the enemy. Force opponents into unfamiliar territory where they're less competent, creating confusion and weakness. All of this is to destroy the Christian nation. Make the enemy live up to its own book, the Bible, of rules. Well, nobody can live up to all the rules, as Jesus said, okay? Hold opponents accountable to their stated principles, exposing hypocrisy. So this is specifically attacking Christians in the Bible. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Ridicule, as in you're a Nazi, you're racist, you're Hitler, okay? Those are the kind of words they use all the time. Ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Use humor and mockery. Look at this. Mockery to undermine opponents, as it's difficult for them to counter without appearing weak. Okay? You Nazi. You're racist. Okay? How do you prove someone that you're not a racist? Think about that. How do you prove to someone that you're not a Nazi? Okay? Think about it. So when those words are said, the average Christian, it hurts our feelings. We don't like that, because that's not who we really are. A good tactic is one your people enjoy. Burning buildings, breaking things. A tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Keep the pressure on, just like we saw them do Trump. And for the first time, the left is beginning to discover that there's someone on the right, Donald Trump, that's willing to fight back. And there's like some 50 lawsuits going on, I think I heard the other day right now. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. So even if you don't think you're going to win, continue to fight. The fear of what you might do can be more effective than the action itself, as imagination amplifies the threat. We Christians tend not to want to fight. We tend to want to get along and everybody happy. The major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. Sustained strategic operations keep opponents off balance and reactive. This is what they're doing. If you push a negative hard enough, it will push through and become a positive. In other words, even if you're a bad guy and you're doing bad things, and the Christians don't continue to fight, then you get a little bit of a victory, is what he's saying. The price of successful attack is constructive alternative. Always have a solution ready to fill the void left by discrediting or dismantling the opposition's position. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Focus on a single, Donald Trump, identifiable target or person or institution. Isolate it like they did Donald Trump, good example. Make it the symbol, Charlie Kirk, and problem, and polarize the issue to rally support. He's the problem. So we got rid of Charlie Kirk. Now we've got to get rid of Donald Trump. That's their objective. That's what they think. So I think that it's been a really good program. So may I suggest you send this out to other people?